Hello guys, welcome to our channel Speaking Books. We will be continuing the discussion of the book Think and Grow Rich. First chapter of the book is an introductory chapter which go around the life instances of 4 people. Let's take a look at each of these people's path to their success. The first one is about the man who thought his way into the partnership with Thomas A. Edison. Yes, you heard it right. It's about the great Edison business partner Edwin C. Bernays. Edwin C. Bernays discovered how it is that men really do think and grow rich. His success did not come about while sitting. It came little by little, beginning with a burning desire to become a business associate of great Edison. Let's look a little deep into Edwin's success story. Firstly, when this desire or an impulse of thought firstly flashed into his mind, he was in no position to act upon it. 2 difficulties stood in his way. First, he did not know Mr. Edison, and second one is that he did not have enough money to pay his railroad fare to Orange, New Jersey. Those difficulties were sufficient to have discouraged the majority of men from making any attempt to carry out the desire. But his was no ordinary desire. He was so determined to find a way to carry out his desire that he finally decided to travel by a blind baggage or railway baggage that has no door or opening at one end rather than be defeated. He presented himself at Mr. Edison's laboratory. The great Edison was quick enough to look into a strong desire of young Bernays. Bernays did not get his partnership with Edison on his first interview. He did get a chance to work in the Edison's office at a very nominal wage, doing work that was unimportant to Edison but most important to Bernays because it gave him an opportunity to display his merchandise where his intended partner could see it. Months went by. Bernays' goal isn't yet converted to real. Any other normal man would have gave up their goals by this time. But Bernays was constantly intensifying his desire to become the business associate of Edison. Then an opportunity came. It appeared in the different form and from the different direction than Bernays had expected. Appearing in the same way is one of the tricks of the opportunity. Opportunity has a sly habit. It comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. Perhaps this is why so many men fail to recognize opportunity. Let's look at the opportunity. Mr. Edison has just perfected a new office device known at that time as the Edison detecting machine, now as the Ediphone. His salesmen were not enthusiastic over the machine. They did not believe it could be sold without great effort. Bernays saw his opportunity. Bernays knew he could sell the Edison detecting machine. He suggested this to Edison and promptly got his chance. He did sell the machine. In fact, he sold it so successfully that Edison gave him contract to distribute and market it all over the nation. Out of that business association grew the slogan as made by Edison and installed by Bernays. The business alliance has been in operation for more than 30 years. Out of it, Bernays has made himself rich in money, but he has done something infinitely greater. He has proved that one really may think and grow rich. This plot made us understand that with a strong desire and persistent work with patience surely bring men his success. Now, in the second plot, we will understand that how a person can learn from his failure and make a success out of it. One of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by a temporary defeat. Every person is guilty of this mistake at one time or another. The story of R.U. Derby and his uncle starts when his uncle got excited about the gold dig in the gold rush day and went west to dig and grow rich. They went to work with a pick and shovel. After weeks of labor, he finally found the shining ore. Both went back and borrowed money from the relatives and laborers, bought the machinery with that money, and came back to work. The ore was mined, they shipped it to smelter, and their first returns proved that they found the best ore. But after that, the vein of gold disappeared. They drilled deeper but found no sign of gold. Finally, they decided to quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and went back to home. But this junk wasn't dumb. The junk man called a mining engineer to look at the mine and do some calculations. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with the fault line. His calculations showed that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where the Derbys had stopped drilling. That's exactly where it was found. The junk man took millions of dollars in ore from the mine because he knew enough to seek expert counsel before giving up. Long after remembering the last fortune, Mr. Derby earned a prominent position in the richest person by selling $1 million in life insurance annually. Derby profited by the experience in his chosen work by the simple method of saying to himself, I stopped 3 feet from the goal, but I will never stop because men say no when I ask them to buy insurance. This inspiring story tells us that we may meet many temporary defeats or some failure in the path to success, but we must not quit until the goal is achieved. The next story takes us to another lesson on persistence. Mr. Derby's uncle operated a large farm on which a number of colored sharecrop farmers lived. At those days, the colored children were not supposed to defy white people in that part of the country. One afternoon, Derby was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old-fashioned mill. That day, his uncle found a small colored child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up, saw the child, and barked at her roughly. What do you want? Meekly, the child replied, My mummy says send her 50 cents. I will not do that, the uncle retorted. Now run to home. Yes, sir, the child replied, but she did not move. Few moments later, when the girl didn't leave, uncle yelled, I told you to go to home. Now go, or I'll take a switch to you. The little girl said, Yes, sir, but she didn't budge an inch. Derby's uncle drew a barrel stave and was about to murder that child, but the child quickly stepped forward one step and looked up into his eyes and screamed at the top of her shrill voice, My mummy's got to have that 50 cents. The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, then slowly laid the barrel stave on the floor, put his hand in his pocket, took out a $50 and gave it to her. That was the first time in Derby's experience that he had seen a colored child deliberately master an adult white person. He was thinking, how did she do that? What a strange power did this child use that made her master over her superior? The answer to his question will be found in the principle described in this book. You will observe exactly what a strange power came to the rescue of the child. You will catch a glimpse of this power in the next chapter. Mr. Derby used this experience and he pointed out, every time a prospect tried to bow me out without buying, I saw that child standing there in the old mill, her eyes clarifying in a defiance, and I said to myself, I have got to make this sale. The better portion of all sales I have made were made after the people had said no. Mr. Derby's experiences were commonplace and simple enough, yet they held the answer to his destiny in life. He profited by these two dramatic experiences because he analyzed them and found the lesson they taught. This makes us very much clear is that doing a mistake is not helpful unless we analyze it deeply. Before we go any further, our great author has left an important suggestion in our approach to the description of the success principle. When riches begin to come, they come so quickly in such a great abundance that one wonders where they have been hiding during all those lean years. This is an astounding statement, and all more so when we take into the consideration the popular belief that riches comes only to those who work hard and long. When you begin to think and grow rich, you will observe that riches begin with a state of mind, with definiteness of purpose, with little or no hard work. You and every other person ought to be interested in knowing how to acquire that state of mind which will attract riches. Now let's dig into Mr. Ford's story. Millions of people look at the achievement of Henry Ford as credit for Ford's fortune. Perhaps one in every 100,000 knows the secret of Ford's success. A single transaction will illustrate the secret perfectly. A few years back, Ford decided to produce his famous V8 motor. He chose to build an engine with the entire 8-cylinder cast in one block, and instructed his engineers to produce a design for the engine. Design was placed on paper, but the engineers agreed to amend that it was simply impossible to cast an 8-cylinder gas engine block in one piece. Ford said, "Produce it anyway," but they replied, "It's impossible." "Go ahead," Ford commanded, "and stay on the job until you succeed, no matter how much time is required." The engineers went ahead. There was nothing else for them to do if they were to remain on the Ford staff. 6 months went by. Nothing happened. Another 6 months passed and nothing happened. The engineers tried every conceivable plan to carry out the orders, but the thing seemed out of the question. Impossible. End of the year, Ford checked with his engineers, and again they informed him that they had found no way to carry out his orders. "Go ahead," said Ford. "I want it and I will have it." They went ahead, and then, as if by a stroke of magic, the secret was discovered. The Ford determination had won once more. Now this leads to the end of first chapter. But before we move on next chapter, our author has left something precious. When Henley wrote the prophetic lines, "I am master of my faith, I am captain of my soul," he should have informed us that we are the master of our faith, the captains of our soul, because we have the power to control our thoughts. Mr. Henley, the poet, told us that before we can accumulate success in great abundance, we must magnetize our minds with intense desire for riches, that we must become goal conscious until the desire for money drives us to create a definite plan for acquiring it. We are now ready to summarize this principle. First, maintain a spirit of open-mindedness. Second, building strong determination and desire in mind. Third, ignore temporary failures. Fourth, maintain persistence. Fifth, analyze and learn from mistakes. Sixth, and the most important thing, never quit. And remember, as you read, they are the invention of no one man. The principles were gathered from the life experiences of more than 500 men who actually accumulated riches in huge amounts. Men who began in poverty with but little education, without influence. The principles worked for these men. You can put them to work for your own enduring benefit. You will find it easy, not hard to do. Before you read the next chapter, I want you to know that it conveys factual information which might easily change your entire financial destiny, as it has so definitely brought changes of stupendous proportion of 2 people described. Thank you all. Make sure you like, subscribe and share. Please share your feedback in the comment section. Goodbye. Have a great day.